All right, everybody, good afternoon and welcome on back. Continuing along, of course, our Thursday afternoon, hosted right here in the Cyber Group Trading Room and stream across social media, Facebook, YouTube Live. Welcome on back for our afternoon meeting. Let's get a quick sound check just to begin. Make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear. It's been a pretty stagnant market thus far. We've done pretty well across the board, though. Here we have Blink, BLNK up on the screen. Great to see everybody, though. Greg, Michael, Chuck, Jason, John, you guys are all rolling in way too fast, which is a great thing. I love to see that loud and clear from all, unanimous. And a few of us on YouTube. Great to see everybody there as well. So, like I'd said before, guys, just Blink. It's on the screen. I'm going to right away copy and paste the news for you guys. It looks like a joint venture between Blink and a few other groups in relation to e-mobility in the country of Greece. A little news snippet that I got this morning. So, hey, Blink's a stock that we are very familiar with. This company actually produces the chargers for the EVs, for a lot of the electric vehicles, right? So, relating to NIO and Nikola and Tesla and all of that, right? So, we're familiar with this trade, BLNK. It's up on the screen here to begin. It was a pretty shaky move across the day, and really after the market opened, where this had popped, it really ended up dying off. It took a while for this to move back up towards its highs, but man, this thing, although it maintained a steady trend off like lows and dips, on the 1 minute chart, minute by minute, this thing's very shaky. So going into the afternoon, we're going to put this on our list. I mean, how can we not, just given the volatility, the activity? With that in mind, though, let's try and see where we could find a resistance. So I'm actually looking at level 4, otherwise as we nickname Bookmap. I'll actually pull it up for you guys right here to begin. You could see there were a couple of resistance levels that we were looking at here just earlier. 1350, 14. You can see it's been so shaky around 14, though, like cutting in and out, shake back down to 13 or so, and now back up. So going into the afternoon, we're simply looking for a higher high, and if anything, for this to hold very nicely over 14. If we happen to see both of these things happen, I'd like to think this will just blast right through 1450, move up to 15, perhaps even higher into the close. As of right now, at least, there's no major resistance on the order book above 15. I'm sure there will be something that pops up, at least if it makes that run. For what it's worth right now, yeah, easily we're going to put Blink on our list. Maybe not the easiest trade minute by minute thus far, but hopefully with a new pop, a hold off support at 14, we'll see this make a really nice extension into the close. All right, so Blink was on the screen to begin this meeting, guys. We did pretty well across the board. I want to jump right away to a stock, not number 1 on the gainers list, number 2. Man, this PRPO, it was halted from 10:15 Eastern time this morning. We all thought that it was halted just off of volatility. And typically when a company gets halted off of volatility, it's only like a 5 or 10 minute halt. Nope, this was news pending. So the news pending on this was that PRPO, the company, announced a commercial launch of coronavirus antibody test. All right, well, let me ask you guys, for all of us here live, at least inside the Cyber Group room, you don't know this answer, no worries. I mean, at least at this point, just being here every day, it's like a Rolodex in my head. What stock recently? What company recently? And the news for this company came out months ago, but we've been trading them consistently for the last few months. Do you guys recall what company has come out recently or of late with the news pertaining to the antibody kits and the testing? So many companies come out with vaccine news, right? VXRT, IBO. We saw the Inovio trade from this morning, pump and dump, unfortunately. Does anybody know what the testing kits, the antibody tests? There might be more than one. So I'm thinking of one. A few of us are saying mRNA. A few of us are saying APT. You guys could be right with that. I'm thinking OPK, OPCO Health. So OPK back in like March, this was, you could see on the daily chart, this wacky pop up and back down. At that point in time, news came out that they were going to be producing the testing kits for coronavirus. So, just seeing that last trade, hey, it kind of makes me think of the OPK. Now, this is a stock that we've been trading just across the last few days here. So I'll just jump to this right now. It's pretty slow. We are calling this out at least from the morning. I don't know if this will be as worth it heading into the afternoon. Getting back to the PRPO though, we ended up seeing the news come out right away at 10:15. It didn't reopen until like 12 o'clock, 12:15, actually maybe even a little after that. Nonetheless, we saw a huge gap up towards 5, got halted a few times in the process on the way up, on the way down. At this point in the day right now, I mean, it still has a big range from low to high and including the gap up. It just doesn't really seem to be making that upward move that we're looking for. If anything, it moved up, made a lower high off of 6, Presumably a lower high off of 550, pulling back down now to 5. So we're hoping, if anything, to see this hold support off of 5 for this to, move back through 550 up to 6. For right now, though, man, I'll tell you, I might just write this off for the meantime. PRPO ended up making that big pop, and then the gap up off of that news. If it doesn't end up running today, I'll still keep it on the list for tomorrow and probably for the beginning of next week. For such a big move, you would like to think it's going to make a second run up at some point. If it's not today, then like I said, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, early on. All right. What we'll do, guys, really quickly at this point, we don't have class today, at least. We don't need to do like a lightning round edition of this meeting. But I'll tell you, from the CTU morning watch list, we had a few winners, a couple good ones, but we ended up more so having to go to our side list, the list of stocks that we've called out recently across the last week. Stocks, maybe not like Blink, maybe not like PRPO today, but stocks that we've traded in the past that, hey, maybe today they ended up making a decent steady move up. So, actually first, before we jump to the gainers list officially, I'll just bring up NEO, another EV stock. Ended up making a nice pop upon the market open, perhaps with the market at first, but, this ended up dumping off extremely nicely. So, with the markets being down as much as they were this morning, and it wasn't as if the markets were like getting crushed early on, but it was a little bit of a gap down. And with that, I was thinking upon the open, if the market makes a small short-lived pop, I'd like to think NEO, a major name brand stock, would go with it. But at the same time, if we end up seeing just a stop on that run up, I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up catching this exact move. It's probably really easy for you to hear me say that. It's very easy for me to say that, of course, as well. But, we were talking about that live inside our trading room earlier today, shortly after the market opened up during our live audio commentary. I was telling you guys, look for the pop and drop on NEO. We saw this, eventually break down below support at 1285. I took a small loss at first. At an average up, I took like an 8-cent loss, and then I ended up jumping in once this cut under 1285 on the way down. I mean, hey, I wish I could tell you I ended up getting out at 1210 here. I didn't. I ended up getting out at 1256, I think it was, before it even had a chance of hitting 1250. Nonetheless, though, you want to ride the momentum, right? So once this ended up popping up, pulling back and breaking under that support 1285, with the market drop off, it ended up providing as one of the better short opportunities one of the better opportunities in total, let alone probably one of the better short opportunities of the whole day. All right, guys. So for right now, NEO, for right now, it's actually holding underneath a resistance, a level 1225, 1230, that range. I'm going to act as resistance. I wouldn't be surprised if the markets just fall off a bit, if NEO ends up pulling back closer towards the whole number support at 12. Right now, though, you can see the Dow beginning to try and creep back up towards its highs. So I don't know how likely that will be. Maybe we'll come back to NEO at the very end of this meeting, guys, if there's any reason to. But otherwise, what we'll do, like I'd said, is just go from top to bottom. The TAOP trade was freaking crazy. Very low float stock, very low volume run up at first. But once this ended up breaking higher, you could see the volume started pouring in, ended up getting halted. I think it was like 6 or 7 times on the way up, at least from where I last counted. For the amount of times this stock or any stock gets halted on the way up, it's going to come right back down. I mean, we saw the same exact thing happen on Kodak, actually, to a much more extreme level yesterday, right? With the amount of halts that Kodak had on the way up, this thing is going to come back down. And usually when a stock gets halted on the way down after it got halted on the way up, well, the reopen on the way down, the gap is a hell of a lot bigger compared to the gap when it reopens on the way up. That's kind of a mouthful, but if you happen to see here on the chart easily, just this big gap when this reopens after being halted on the way down. That's why we don't look to hold on to these trades, guys. These low float, low volume runners, they end up dying off really fast. So the TOAP trade, doing exactly that right now. Looks like it was kind of holding strong maybe in this range over support, but obviously now beginning to break down. I mean, you could say maybe 10 as the next support. It already held 10 here though for a bit. So if it's not breaking higher, I would like to think this will just slam back down much lower. So yeah, for right now, TOAP, at least we're going to scratch this off our main list. Let's see what happens at 10 maybe. Looks like it wants to just slam right through. Watch, the second I turn away from it, it'll probably crash. All right. Sometimes during these meetings, you'll catch a stock like ripping right through a huge order on the bid or the ask. It makes an extreme run up or down. So wanted to see if that was the case. EDSA, same thing though, right? Like as PRPO perhaps, and definitely as much as, Kodak and TOAP that we were just talking about. Low float, big move up. And actually, how about this? I'm going to try and do a quick little copy and paste from earlier inside our live trading room. So, a few of us were looking at this trade earlier on in the morning, of course, but, leading into the market open, guys, I'd said this inside the chat board early in pre-market by 8:15 Eastern time. I made this comment. I'm going to copy and paste it for all of us here. And that goes for streaming on social media too. So, this is what I wrote inside our trading room just earlier. I said at 8:15, EDSA historically has been a pre-market runner, has usually dumped off after the market opens. Okay, well, obviously that happened, but first and foremost, a stock like EDSA that's up as much as it was, 100+%, usually it's going to dump off at 9:30, regardless of float. But now we look at the daily chart. I mean, this is like answering what's 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, right? Simple as that. We know that. Well, look at the amount of times this stock was a pump and dump. March 8th, 2019, May 31st, 2019, June 3rd, probably Monday morning afterwards. All of these big red candles, it's because this is running up in the pre-market. This opened up here on May 8th at 10:50. Now, don't get me wrong, even after that, it exploded up to 17. But look what happened after. It dumped back down, closed lower than it opened, and completely dumped off afterwards. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. Right? So, in terms of stock trading, right, not every trade is as easy as what's 2 plus 2. And this trade in the pre-market was pretty tough. I mean, maybe, a steady trend off its dips and lows, but, very shaky like Blink was just before, as I was saying. But nonetheless, what I'm referring to here is this. For as much as this did well for us on the way up early in pre-market, every single one of us inside the trading room knew to get the hell out after 9:30, or at least before 9:30. Popped up towards like 19, but look at where this thing is now, right? So, this is exactly what we look to avoid, right? But this was an easy prediction, an easy call out. Not everyone's going to be easy, right? But based on past history, how can you not think otherwise? Or how can you think otherwise, rather, I should say. All right, DRTT, we'll just go down from top to bottom now at this point. Blink we covered. I guess you got the warrants there at number 4, but we're not going to look at that at least yet. DRTT, I saw Andrea talk about this inside our trading room earlier. He took a little bit of a trade. It looks like it worked out for him. I think Andrea was in from like 169, 170, Andrea, you had said. He was kind of complaining afterwards because he realized it was like low volume. It was like tight range, not really doing much. He called himself, I saw this in the chat board earlier. He said, "Oh, I can't believe I'm such a stunod." Well, Andrea, it looks like it worked out for you. I hope that you were able to get out with the profit there. It topped off at like 195. For right now, I mean, it made a nice move earlier today. I don't think it's going to be a mover going into the close. All right. Well, DRTT certainly is not a mover going into the close, but this one is. TCCO. Looks like it's like third or fourth halt already, just looking at the gap on the chart here. 218 exploded, got halted on the way up, reopened up 10 minutes later, was moving around a bit, got halted at 2:32 Eastern time, reopened up just 10 minutes later here, and of course now halted. So yeah, TCCO will put on our list, but the same to be said with this as was with like Kodak and PRPO. The more this gets halted on the way up, should it get halted on the way down, the gap on the way down is going to be a lot bigger, I think. Oh, really quickly, I guess if I can just load this up here. Let's see, TCCO. Yeah, look at the float on this right now, guys. And I'll just show this here for everything else. But this is just a scanner that we tend to use otherwise. But 1.47 million share float for TCCO, 4.71 million share float for EDSA. That's all extremely low. Even 14.42 is pretty light. The fact it doesn't show any sort of, volume for the float here for DRTT, it's got to be extremely low. And, of course, the same with TCCO here. But yeah, this one we'll put on our list. Just got to be careful for the dump back down when this reopens. This PEIX is looking great. Probably one of the better ones going into the afternoon here so far. I was going to get to this, of course, but we called this out right before we started the meeting. PEIX making a move up towards 250, breaking a new high at that time. I'll be honest, I chickened out on this trade. I was in from 251. I got out at 255. And perhaps with the meeting coming up, I didn't want to get stuck in it. But I mean, I left some money on the table at first. It pulled back. It held over support. I mean, from the consolidation, at least, it slipped under 250 for a bit, but obviously moving up higher right now. Yeah, easily. PEIX will just put this on our list for right now. Obviously, have to make sure that this just holds higher lows. This begins to hold some support around 260, 255-ish, perhaps. I don't know the float on this. I didn't see here at the time. Oh, what up? 51%. Yeah, not too light. I mean, 51.69 million. So, just looking at this and level 3 in particular compared to the others that we were just going over. I mean, hey, look, you got a tight spread. You got a very liquid order book, level 3 that is. So, this is definitely right on the top of our list going into the afternoon for all of those reasons. All right, I was going to check in on Blink, I guess, but still, oh, whoops. Still holding underneath 14. Looks like it's trying to move back up there once again. Blink, we kind of already covered. All right, ADMA, I'll tell you, this looks like an incredible setup right now. Like literally at this point in time, because this had a really tough time breaking over resistance at 4 earlier. This was one I actually jumped into long on the way up. I ended up closing out with a 3-cent loss, and I actually reversed my position right away afterwards. I was a little concerned about the push back up, but pulled back. I ended up picking up 12 cents on the way down. The stock is not hard to borrow, at least. So that's where I say for a nice move up. If it ends up crapping out the other way, perhaps it would be a good opportunity. But for right now, yeah, this is pushing back up to resistance here at 4. If this breaks over 4, I think this will run like now. So make sure that you have a stop set, if anything, guys. Because if I'm wrong, then at least, it'll be kind of a scratch trade, very tiny loss if that. But at 4 is a major level. It's a whole number, currently a 50,000 share order getting filled. Here's the pop. Let's see where this takes us. Popped above 4, back under 4 right now, but let's see. Needs to really begin to move up here, I think, because this had a very tough time with 4 earlier today. So, if it failed to break cleanly over 4 earlier, around 130, if it moves back up here right now, it's worth the opportunity, but you want to make sure that it begins to make that pop much sooner than later. Uh-oh. All right, we'll come back to this. I want to check in on this trade just before we finish, but easily we're going to put this ADMA, on our list, much like the PEIX. All right, other names I'm just going to rip through right here, guys. Home, HOME. We ended up seeing, I thought it was earnings, but maybe it's something else aside from that. But we ended up seeing like a massive explosion in the post-market yesterday, up like 68 or 70%. If it was just earnings based, then I gotta say, and I didn't trade this stock this morning, but that's where I would say, for a stock like Home that's up as much as it was and it was shortable, normally companies off of earnings don't move up like 65, 70%. So I'm sure there's other news aside from just the earnings report. But otherwise, guys, typically an ER would lead to like a 15, 20% move on average, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, but hot damn, 68%. So, you would expect a bit of profit taking, a bit of a drop off here upon the market opening up. So it did do that. Unfortunately, it never really maintained a steady downtrend to move lower. Ended up moving back up off support from 12, pushed up towards 1350-ish. But from there, we ended up seeing it hold. And from that point, ended up pulling back down. So, if anything, maybe later going into the late morning, early afternoon, once this ended up topping off at 1350, from that point, you could see it ended up acting as a much better short opportunity. And I still think this could be a nice drop going into the afternoon. It made a lower low, popped back up here for a bit and holding over 12 right now. But yeah, we'll put this home trade on our list for right now, at least. HOME. All right. Let's see. Other familiar names. Overstock. Holy smokes. Are you kidding me? This thing. I mean, I heard Fausto talk about this during the webinar today, guys. He was referencing it, saying it going from 4 to 70. But, this is where I'll say sometimes you take your eyes off a stock like OSTK. You trade some others across the week. You come back to it. Holy smokes. Up 28% right now, or 26.5%. I don't think this is all-time highs. Nah. Oh yeah, we were just looking at this right here. Probably like 87, 89, 90 bucks here back in January of 18. Overstock, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I am, at least. Overstock is a blockchain stock. I know that they have an affiliation with blockchain technology, affiliation with Bitcoin, perhaps even as well. I bring that up because this past week we've been trading Riot, Mara. These stocks are doing nothing for us today, so we're not going to trade them. But it's pretty interesting because, I want to go back. We ended up seeing that peak in late 2017, early 2018. Is this not exactly when Bitcoin made its run? Is this not exactly when Riot blockchain stock ended up making this exact move? So perhaps some food for thought. Chuck says here in the chat board, Overstock announced last fall, so last year, that they wanted to do a Bitcoin dividend. Interesting, Chuck. So I didn't know that. So it goes to show that they are still in the blockchain business per se. But yeah, going back to Overstock, it's near the highs. That's the only reason that I would put this on our list. Otherwise, of course, it's very pricey, a bit of a spread with it. So I want to see if there's anything cheaper, more within our price range, or more with more volume on the book, perhaps. This Apache stock, APA, definitely fits that bill. It's up big, still pretty volatile, moving up nicely off of what seems to be support 1580. Looks like it broke under the VWAP for a little bit, squeezed back over it. 1604 is the VWAP right now. You know what? I think I'm going to sell myself into putting this APA on our list. It's one that we're pretty familiar with. This is an oil stock. We ended up seeing this make a huge drop off going back into late February, early March. This was with everything else. APA, Oxy is another oil stock that we've traded in the past. I know that APA is coming off earnings, whereas Oxy is not. So, one we put on the list, one we won't. Although I will say Oxy's down like over 6.5%. So, this one still seems to be fairly active, but moving a little bit slower, I think. All right, CLRB pretty flat, huge HUGE. Again, just to go back from the top guys, just low float runner, popped early in the morning, dumped right away after the market opened up. All right. Oh, I skipped over it. So a few pings from us here in the chat board on JMIA. Oh yeah, still holding strong near the highs, guys, right? And if any one of us on social media, if you guys have seen this stock being discussed in this meeting in the past, well, just look at the daily chart. We ended up seeing the stock run back in early July, called it out, closed at the highs at the time, popped the next morning. We've been following this stock off its IPO going back into late 2018 or early 2019, that is rather, moved up to 45 and plus and dumped right back down. So, we've been waiting for this type of squeeze up for quite some time, even going back into, late September, early October when it's breaking all-time lows. Even back here, these days, we traded the stock back then. It made a nice, day trade move for us to take. Same to be said here, obviously, just a much bigger run up today to go from 11 up towards the high of the day, 1350, 50-cent level. So notice what happened when it touched 1350. It made an extreme drop right away after. So definitely goes to show that 1350 high of the day is going to be a really strong resistance here for us. So yeah, we're going to put JMIA back on our list here. All right. So you know what? I'll tell you right away, guys, at least from this morning upon the market opening up, I had a lot of stocks on my gainers list that I was looking at. I had like next to no stocks on the losers list. So right now we have a decent list, and that's not surprising to me. Let's see if there's any others here just to round out the gainers side. IBIO, this made a really nice move earlier. One of our students, Karan, called this out going into the early afternoon, and I took his call. It was right off of resistance at the time, 470. Kind of lunchtime. Volume wasn't really too high. Momentum wasn't really too sharp, but it made the move. Took a little while for it to get the gears going on this trade, but we ended up jumping in, a few of us, from the 470 level, 475, if not 470, ended up running up to 5 and above. I got out personally at 497, so it was about like a 20 or so cent move. Obviously took off higher afterwards. For right now, I feel like this move's kind of done, especially with this last little pop over 5 and back down. So yeah, for right now, we're gonna write this off. ALT, another Corona stock, so to say, kind of like APT. Yeah, ALT moving up really sharply right now, guys. I want to take a look on the news at least for this. I know I'm going a little over time right now. We haven't hopped over to the losers list yet. Current time is 2:55. Oof. All right, so be a little bit longer of a meeting here, guys. But I want to take a look on ALT. I don't see any specific news. I see a price target, an upgrade, perhaps from JMP Securities. They see a price target of 50. I think that's a little ridiculous of a price target. But nonetheless, we end up seeing a big move up, of course, this afternoon. A bit of a wacky spread for right now. So it seems like this made a pop and drop from 26. Wouldn't surprise me to see this make its way back up to and hopefully through 26 into the afternoon. All right, so how about this, guys? If there's anything else that's up big, 10% or more going into the afternoon, then post it here in the chat board. But what we'll do is hop over to the losers list. GNCA at least is shortable. It's down big. I didn't really catch this earlier in the morning. I guess it was on the losers list to begin, but dumped off right away after 9:30. I guess this was a really nice short from like 4 down to 320. Right now, it's just too flat. This KRA trade kind of looks flat from a zoomed out perspective, but you zoom in, it's moving down pretty nicely from 1430 down to 1366. I'd say currently that's your biggest order on the bid. In fact, that has to be an iceberg because there's no other ECNs. Oh, now there's a couple, but you could see even through level 2, there's 4,600 shares, not in total, but specifically just one order seems like it's being routed through the Edge X. So perhaps if it breaks this 1366, this KRA will make a new leg down into the afternoon. All right, so for right now, we'll put this on our list. Tradable. QEP also shortable, a little close to the ground level floor. Any other familiar names? I know I'm kind of just brushing through the loser side. I'll say what I said yesterday, and I think it was yesterday that I said it. I don't know. I don't think that we have too much else on this loser side. Every time I say that, those exact words, there's always one that pops up out of nowhere. So I kind of just said that in fun, hoping to catch one more big move here going into the afternoon. I don't see it, guys. No other familiar name. Nothing down that much for a dead cat bounce. All right, I got a couple setups for us, though, otherwise. Let's jump to SRNE, Sorrento. It's not up 10% or more. It's up 9.55%, right? So this one, we'll definitely put this on our list, SRNE. I'm looking for an entry right here, right over 850. There's also an order on the Ask a Minor complimentary order at 855. But, we've been waiting for a huge run up on this trade really across the last 2 weeks. You could see on the daily chart, we've traded this going back into early June. But, on the way up here across the last month, it's done well for us on the day trade side. But the last week, it's been teasing us. Today, we were fortunate enough to catch this on the way up to 8. A lot of us took this trade off the pop from 8. Up towards 820, 825-ish. And then, of course, the next resistance was here off of 830. So for what it's worth right now, I'm looking to see this run higher into the close, this SRNA. Looks like 850 was also a historical level on the daily chart, just as that was the top, roughly around 850, 853, 857, 851, the highs across the last week or so. All right, I'm getting a few pings here otherwise from you guys in the chat board on WKHS. Nice pop, at least, just a moment ago on this trade. Let's take a look. WKHS, any news on this? Yep, maybe a tweet. I got a tweet from you for you guys here. Copy and paste, as always. It says Lordstown releases video of working prototype of its electric pickup truck for the quote-unquote working man. I like that. It's fun. All right. Well, nice pop, workhorse. Just as we should mention, and as it states pretty much in the title of that tweet, they're in the EV business as well. So it's not just NIO and Blink and Tesla and Nikola and so on and so forth. You got workhorse here as well, WKHS. So yeah, it's one that we're pretty familiar with. We saw this stock break all-time highs going back into late June. So yeah, looks like it's making a nice pop so far. So we'll put this back on our list. All right, good call. Let's see from Jerry up top. Oh yeah, that was pretty much Jerry calling that one out. Nice. All right, anybody on YouTube here? Let's see. Qualcomm, I saw a call out here. QCOM, right? They reported earnings this morning or yesterday after hours, one of the two. Yeah, I think I'm going to put this on our list actually. For a few of us in the trading room, you'd be surprised by that because of the price. But whereas Overstock wasn't breaking all-time highs, I hope I'm right. I better be right. I believe I am. Yep. All right. I know that Qualcomm is breaking all-time highs. So kind of like with AMD this week, we ended up seeing AMD pop all-time highs. And it's getting right back up there. Maybe we put AMD on our list here too for that same reason. Looks really flat in relation to in relation to Qualcomm, but AMD ended up making a nice pop after the market opened today to make a new all-time high. Obviously, the all-time high as of right now is the high of the day today, 78.96. So with the Dow pushing up, you know what? I'll add AMD, and that'll do. All right, guys. From Jerry, last one here at the buzzer, I see CNET, and rightfully so. Great call, Jerry. Now, how many stocks do we have on this list now at this point? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 stocks in total, guys. Well, I'll tell you this. If you don't trade the expensive stocks, it's going to be at least 12, right? You'll scratch Qualcomm, you'll scratch AMD off your list. If you tend to trade the lower priced ones, at least don't let those be a distraction to you. All right, aside from that though, guys, with that in mind, we do have a big list. So, if it's not the JMIA, hopefully it's the PEIX. If it's not the PEIX, hopefully it's the Blink. If it's not the Blink, hopefully it's the CNET here, taking us into the close. All right, guys, so for all of us streaming across social media, as always, if you guys would like to learn more about Cyber Trading University, I know that Fausto just finished up a big webinar just earlier on social media. Make sure that you guys call the phone number down below on the banner. One of our education advisors will just pick up and provide more detail. All right, for all of us here inside the trading room, as always, let's try and close out this Thursday afternoon just as well as we'd opened it up. Take care, guys.